Seth Welch and his wife Tatiana stand accused of an unspeakable crime, starving their 10-month-old baby girl, Mary.
A gruesome case that caught national attention. A mother and her boyfriend sent to prison after her son was found buried in the backyard of their home. Larissa and Christopher Rodriguez never admitted in court they were involved in the little boy's death.
Let's head to Kent County, Michigan, where child neglect and child protective services take the front stage.
It is life without parole. It requires a DNA sample to be taken upon arrest.
His mouth drops in shock. He can't believe what he's hearing. His wife's reaction? She sobs uncontrollably. Tears streak her face.
Being a parent is a huge responsibility, and Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari failed miserably at it. The couple caused the death of their 10-month-old daughter, Mary Ann Welch. On August 2nd, 2018, Mary Ann died of malnutrition and dehydration in Kent County, Michigan. Seth Welch and Tatiana Fusari were unusual people with unusual, harmful beliefs. They did not recognize the importance of modern medicine and rejected it altogether. The couple had previously had a history of neglectful parenting and raising their kids in an unhealthy environment. In 2014, Child Protective Services were alerted to the conditions their children were being raised in, and their first daughter tested positive for THC when she was still a baby. Although there were signs that the conditions their children were living in were deplorable and dangerous to their health and well-being, the couple ignored all warnings until their unwholesome parenting led to the avoidable death of Mary Ann Welch.
I picked Mary up and I put her on the changing table and I performed CPR on her.
How long did you perform CPR in there?
I don't know.
At the time of her passing, Mary Ann Welch weighed 8 pounds, which was severely underweight for her age. Child Protective Services described the home as unhygienic and unfit to live in. There were mold, vermin, and insects in the home Seth and Tatiana were raising their children in. The husband, Seth, told the court that his refusal to engage medical expertise in raising his children and ensuring their medical wellness was due to religious reasons and his distrust of the medical system. The autopsy showed that Mary Ann died of dehydration and starvation. The poor child was constantly denied food and water.
I could see the outline of her intestines through her stomach. I could see her spine completely through her back. I could see every one of her ribs through her chest. Yeah, like I said,
The couple was charged with felony murder in 2018. Their reaction when they heard their charges made rounds on the internet and started debates by netizens. The public was outraged because the couple still believed they did nothing wrong after causing the death of their daughter. Seth Welch was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole in 2020.
Okay. He rolled over to face me and he started punching me in the face.
She was sentenced to life in prison without possibility of parole in the same year. If you think what this couple did to their daughter was horrible, then you're in for a shock. Larissa and Christopher Rodriguez's actions did not only lead to the death of their son, but they also covered it up and buried him in the most undignified manner.
6 years in prison. Count 5, abuse of a corpse, felony of 5th degree, 9 months in prison. Counts 1, 2, and 3 to be served consecutive to each other and concurrent to the sentence imposed in count 5 for a total sentence of 25 years.
This is Larissa and Christopher Rodriguez, and what they did will make you sick. 5-year-old Jordan Rodriguez was last seen alive in September, and his body was found buried in his mother's backyard 2 months later. The culprits? His mother and her boyfriend. Jordan was disabled and born prematurely with only 1 kidney. Larissa passed on what she experienced as a child to her children. She was neglected and mistreated as a child, and this affected her life as a mother. Christopher was also born into a family where he witnessed violence and crime as a child. The consequences of their upbringing was the death of Jordan, which, to this day, authorities are unable to figure out. All that is known is Larissa and her sister's account of what happened to her son. Larissa claimed that Christopher had brought Jordan into her bedroom when he was barely conscious. Instead of seeking help for her child, she gave Jordan a cold shower and put him in her bed. Jordan died in the next 24 hours. As it turned out, little Jordan had suffered mistreatment and neglect when he was alive, and his body was treated even worse after his death. Larissa's sister told the police that she had seen Jordan tied up with a sock in his mouth before this incident happened. During the investigation, another child was found eating a sandwich full of cockroaches. Christopher and Larissa buried Jordan secretly, and his body wasn't found until December 19, 2017. Christopher's brother had ratted the couple out to the police. After 2 days of digging, Jordan was found in a 4-foot hole with a diaper over his head and wrapped in bags of mothballs.
Ma, I just wanted to let you know that I still love you, but I want you to tell me the truth and what really happened.
This case triggered outrage in the courtroom about the level of depravity that these people subjected their son to. Even the judge was shaken by the callousness. She asked Christopher how he can live with himself after his actions.
I know as a judge I'm not supposed to show emotion. And in 22 years I never have. This is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
They were charged with involuntary manslaughter, felonious assault, child endangering, and gross abuse of a corpse, and the couple both pled guilty to these charges. The judge who passed their sentence had tears in her eyes as she passed judgment, unable to stop herself when confronted with the horror that Jordan faced before he died, and the horrifying way in which his corpse was treated after. Larissa was sentenced to 25 years in prison, and Christopher was sentenced to 28 years. Larissa was seen wiping away a few tears, but Christopher showed no emotion as his sentence was read. You may think Larissa and Christopher's method of burying their child was sick, but what Dee and Eric Millerberg did before they hid the body of their victim will make you shiver.
I just want to say that I'm appalled and disgusted by what I've done.
Dee and Eric Millerberg were charged with the murder and desecration of 16-year-old Alexis Rasmussen. In 2011, the body of Alexis was found in a garbage bag in Utah, 38 days after she went missing. Before her death, she was babysitting Dee and Eric's children. The details you are about to hear will rile you up. Dee and Eric were substance users and would often invite the 16-year-old to take substances with them under the guise of babysitting. It was revealed by Dee in the court that Eric used to smoke marijuana with Alexis and have intimate relations with her in their home. She testified that later on, Alexis asked for substances that were stronger. It then became a norm for Eric to invite Alexis over, bribe her with substances and alcohol, and have intimate relations with her along with Dee. On the night of Alexis's death, Dee and Eric had told Alexis to come to babysit their children. When she got there, Dee injected Alexis with high quantities of substances, and she and Eric performed intimate acts on each other. Afterward, Alexis began to react badly to the substances she'd taken and was hysterical. She asked the couple if she could take a bath in their bathroom, and they agreed, but left her alone. Dee stated that she was left alone at her request. After taking a bath, Alexis complained that she was cold, and the couple wrapped her in a blanket and left her in another room. Barely an hour later, they found her in the room they'd left her in. She was not responsive, and according to Dee, who was a nurse, she tried to resuscitate her. Alexis died, and the Millerbergs put her body in a garbage bag before disposing of it. When her body was found, an autopsy showed that there were large quantities of toxic substances in Alexis's system, and this was what led to her death.
I know you have needs, I know you have children, I know you have families, but sometimes, you do such acts that are such extreme.
In hopes of a lesser sentence, Dee testified against her husband, and she added that he was controlling and manipulative. Eric, on the other hand, had boasted to people about his escapades with 16-year-old girls. The couple was sentenced to life in prison for child abuse, homicide, obstruction of justice, and statutory rape, among others.
One day he'll be able to forgive me, and then God will bring me peace.
It was reported that Eric also cried and apologized as he was led out of the courtroom. Bad, indulgent, and neglectful parenting led to innocent kids losing their lives in a Michigan school, and couple James and Jennifer Crumbly paid the price for their negligent and bad parenting.
See me move the garbage can?
Is that tape lying on the ground?
That's tape on the ground, yes.
On November 30th, 2021, a tragic mass shooting occurred at Oxford High School in Michigan. claiming the lives of 4 students and injuring 7 others. The victims were 17-year-old Justin Schilling, 16-year-old Tate Meyer, 17-year-old Madison Baldwin, and 14-year-old Hannah St. Juliana. The shooter was identified as 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley. This will be the beginning of a long case in the history of mass shootings. The parents of Ethan, James, and Jennifer were declared wanted and arrested for involuntary manslaughter in connection to their son's crimes. Ethan Crumbley suffered from mental issues, and his disturbing actions were constantly ignored and even encouraged by his parents. Ethan was obsessed with violence and had previously shown that he had violent tendencies. He admitted to taking the gun to school and hiding it in his backpack before firing at his classmates later and shooting one of them twice. He was sentenced to life in prison, and different charges were leveled against his parents, all on account of their neglect. Jennifer refused to get professional help for Ethan, even though there were signs that he needed help. She encouraged him to do something that eventually led to the tragic death of these young students. A few days before the shooting, Jennifer had taken Ethan to a local gun range and taught him how to fire a semi-automatic handgun. He used the same gun to kill his schoolmates. Naturally, his parents teaching him to fire a gun and letting him have access to it was punishable by the law. And they were indeed punished. Jennifer and James became the first parents to be held responsible for their son's actions. They were sentenced to 15 years in prison.
I understand my words are not going to bring any comfort.
When James heard the sentence at the final judgment, he broke down and wept. He apologized for his son's actions. Both parents apologized for what happened to the victims of their son's violent behavior. While the couple felt bad about their sentence, they were empathetic enough to have understood the pain of the families whose children and siblings were murdered by their son. For most of these couples, their crimes were majorly criminal negligence. However, James and Jennifer appeared to have shown the most remorse, admitting to themselves and others that their neglectful parenting has resulted in the death of his innocent schoolmates. Get ready for another gripping installment that will leave you on the edge of your seat in our next video: Most Dangerous Teens Reacting to Life Sentences.